Alright guys, this video is going to be a different kind of video. I wanted to do one of these because there's a lot of confusion and I guess pent up stress. People on Reddit, on the AMD subreddit, are stressing out completely about this Vega, RX Vega, being equal to or close to a GTX 1080 performance. So we all know AMD is going around doing their little mini tour, showing off RX Vega. So they started in, I think the country's Budapest, or the city's Budapest. I don't really know where it is. It's some European country, I believe. But anyway, regardless of wherever they're going, right? They're showing off two systems. One is an AMD system, the other is an NVIDIA system. They don't tell you which one is which. All they tell you is that one of them has a FreeSync monitor with RX Vega, and at this point we can guess that it's the Vega XT or Vega XTX, but I don't know. At this point I assume that it's Vega XT. We'll see. And then the other system is using a G-Sync monitor with GeForce GTX 1080. So that right there is indication that RX Vega, at least whatever reference card AMD puts out, or maybe there won't even be a reference card. I really hope there is a reference card, though. It just would be kind of lame without one. Is going to be on par with the GTX 1080. Now, that right there is causing this whole ordeal to blow up on Reddit. People are saying ridiculous stuff, that it's dead on arrival, it should be only $300, and all this other stuff. It's kind of ridiculous because, I mean, we already know, we've seen the performance from the Radeon Frontier Edition, from Ryan Shrout over at PC Perspective. He did a pretty good detailed review of a retail sample, actually, because AMD did not sample these cards to reviewers. So that again should point to them not being 100% confident in the fact that they have a GTX 1080 competitor, and they don't really have anything to answer the GTX 1080 Ti or even the Titan X Pascal in gaming. The first we ever saw of this sort of comparison was over at PC World, where they showcased the Frontier Edition going up against the Titan X Pascal. And in that scenario, it's the same thing that happened this time around. Like, they don't tell you the FPS. The FPS counter is not anywhere on the screen. They're using FreeSync and G-Sync, so you can barely see any tearing, and the frame latencies are really low on both systems. So regardless of whether one is running at 59 FPS average and the other one's up at like 64 or whatever, you're barely going to be able to tell the difference. So, you know, the interesting thing is they let you demo both systems, and then you get to score which one, you report which one you thought was the better experience. So that's interesting. AMD and NVIDIA both have gone to events together. They've both been at events like this in the past, showcasing FreeSync and G-Sync and the benefits of both technologies and all this other stuff. So it's not really new. It's kind of like they're just showing Vega and they're showing the closest competitor. So at this point, it's pretty clear RX Vega will compete with GTX 1080. Everybody should have already had that in their minds at this point because, you know, like, there's been lots of coverage on this, guys. I don't know why these people are acting so crazy about this. One thing I am going to talk about in this video, though, is my speculations on what I think the pricing will be for the RX Vega. So we can base this off of the previous trends that AMD has set in the past with the R9 Fury and the Fury X. So we know at this point from the leaks that there will be 3 Vega cards that come out in the next 2 to 3 months. The first one will be the Vega XT. Then there'll probably be one above it, which will be Vega XTX. Now, both of these cards are fully unlocked. You guys need to remember that. It's not like they're sandbagging or anything. Both are fully unlocked. The only difference that I can speculate on is these are basically going to be the consumer variants of the Frontier Edition and the Frontier Liquid Cooled Edition. Only they're going to have 8 gigabytes of HBM2 as opposed to 16. And they're probably going to be using a cheaper cooler, although I really don't think they should go any cheaper than the air-cooled Frontier Edition card. I guess I don't know. Like, I really want the tachometer because the Fury cards had that, and I really like that. The load tachometer, I want that with the changeable LEDs. If that's not there, I'm gonna be very disappointed. I'm just gonna set the expectations right now for if anyone at AMD is watching this, you better have the red, blue, purple. You can change the color between red, blue, purple on the tachometer LED for the GPU thing, because I think that's something that's really cool. It's a good value add, and it's not that hard to do. It's just a couple of LEDs on the near the power connectors. So that's going to be the XT and the XTX. So pricing for these, I'm going to speculate $549 for the XT, and this is the one that I think that they are going around demoing at these events. Because this is the one that is going to compare to the GTX 1080. People who are saying, that's too expensive, it needs to be $300 or it's done on arrival. Those people do not have realistic expectations. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't understand that this is an enthusiast product. It's GTX 1080 level. There's no reason for them to price it lower. I mean, obviously people are going to argue and say that, well, the power consumption is 300 watt TDP. Well, this is probably going to be a 285 watt TDP. So it's basically like the R9 Fury X. So, and they were able to price the Fury X the same as a 980 Ti, and then the Fury was priced the same as a GTX 980, or actually it was $50 more because the GTX 980 became $499 that year, back in 2015. So, you know, they can get away with it. There's no reason for them to not charge this price. I mean, I think that's a fair price. I mean, if it's at this, I'm buying it at release, no questions asked. It's just got to have a tachometer on the GPU, like on the PCI connectors. So, XTX, that's probably going to be the liquid cooled one that can maintain the 1600 or 1700, whatever the boost clock ends up being. And that one is probably going to be over $600. I don't know. Like that one, I have no idea actually. And if that's an all-in-one liquid cooler, I'm not buying it. I'm not gonna buy anything with liquid cooler. I have air cooler. I have a Noctua NHD14 on my Ryzen 1800X, and I have air-cooled GPUs since forever. So it's like I don't want a liquid cooler. It doesn't matter. So I want a $400 or a $549 reference cooler. I'm good to go. I can compare that with my reference GTX 1080 Founders Edition card. So I'm good to go there. Now for the third one, this is the more interesting one. This is the Vega XL. So this is the cut down Vega. This one I speculate $429. The reason why I think they can get away with $429 because it's pretty clear that Vega can beat the 1070. I mean, there's no questions asked. At this point, it can beat 1070. Cut down Vega XL shouldn't have too much of an issue beating the 1070. The 1070 right now retails. So if we look at the comparison, we'll just put GTX 1080 and GTX 1070. We'll add the lower end stuff later. So if we put this, the current price for this is $499. People don't believe me. Let's go and find out. Let's go and let's go to GeForce.com and let's look at what the price of the GTX 1080 is. Oh look, $549. So I'm gonna change that. So $549. People be like, well, you can get one for cheaper. Well, good luck trying to find one for cheaper, because I don't believe that. So we're going $549 for the GTX 1080. Let's see what the 1070 goes for. And remember, I am using reference pricing, so that's $399. So $399 for a GTX 1070 reference, which means that the custom cards are more than that. which makes sense. You go look at Micro Center and those places, in Newegg, you're going to be seeing 1070s go for over $400. Easy. Close to $450. So, yeah, I think they can get away with this. So, this, to me, is pretty realistic expectations in terms of the price points. XTX will be interesting because that's the one that, from a marketing standpoint, that's going to be a nightmare to try to. That's a hard sell because, especially if they put a liquid cooler, they could do something interesting and make a really big air cooler, kind of like how they made the dual GPU coolers in the past. I really think they should do that because I think that their rendered reference coolers look a lot better than the stuff that they actually put out. So I think a $650 high-end XTX that can hit right between it has to be quite a bit closer to the 1080 Ti than what we've seen so far. But if they're able to pull that off, I think they can get $649 for it. I mean, we're talking enthusiast prices. People who are saying this should be $300, they can just forget about it at this point because they just don't have realistic expectations. So this is realistic. I just kind of wanted to get everyone's thoughts on Vega at this point. And yeah, there's a lot of people that are just complaining. I don't really understand why. It's pretty clear that what we saw with the Frontier Edition is pretty close to what you're going to see with RX Vega. I mean, the counter argument that I will use to prove that point or validate that point is the fact that the GTX 1080 Ti and the Titan X Pascal perform similar in games, and the Titan XP has more VRAM, so you can do the rendering stuff better. And it just does the rendering better. So, because it's slightly more, it's like the fully unlocked one. So, yeah, I mean, Frontier Edition can compete with Titan in, you know, like the rendering, the CAD, and the SolidWorks, all that type of professional use applications. But in gaming, there seems to be some kind of issue. I don't really know if it's a driver utilization problem. We don't know. Maybe it's fixable. Maybe we'll see like a 15% uplift by the end of the year. But anyway, I don't think it's that bad from what I've seen, what people are saying. The comments in the Reddit section are just kind of ridiculous right now. But anyway, guys, that was the video that I wanted to get out there to get everyone's thoughts on RX Vega. And hopefully setting the expectations properly for going into the next 2 weeks here as they approach the launch. Now, I'm not saying that this is fact, okay? I could be wrong, but I think these are these numbers that you're seeing here are definitely more realistic and representative of what you'll actually see AMD launch the prices or launch the cards at retail with, as opposed to what you're seeing on Reddit where people are saying, oh, it's going to be $300. It's not going to be $300. An RX 580 8 gig is like $280. There's no way. So anyway, I think I've said enough. I think the video will stand the test of time, and we'll see in the next couple of weeks if I'm right or wrong. And I think that'll prove my point. So anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Looking forward to your thoughts on this matter, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks.